So, so I think, I think hearing that quote, you can probably sort of understand where I'm coming from. But of course, I'll still explain, the meaning of this to me, right? So probably all of you that are watching this know that I had that video essay on perfect days, and that's like my most viewed video ever. Has brought in probably like more than half of all of my subscribers, and it is sort of a keystone part of my journey as like a YouTuber, as a content creator, as an artist, right? Also, the other thing is that shortly after that video was released, it was like copyright claimed. So the video is still up, but I don't make any money off of it. Made almost no money off of it, despite, however many views, hundreds of thousands of views it has. But I'm not saying that to complain. I'm just leading in. So that's sort of kind of the story of the whole channel thus far. A lot of the OG Tim friends would know, but when this channel first started, it was all video essays. It was only video essays about media, like movies and shows and games and stuff like that. And then
video is done, and the shot I generated with Envato to fill a gap.
I had this idea eventually to start highlighting older, less popular Studio Ghibli films, like Only Yesterday, Pompoko, My Neighbors the Yamadas, Ocean Waves, and I even did a documentary about Hayao Miyazaki and his son Goro Miyazaki, who was like kind of tapped to be his successor, but it didn't really work out, and it was like this whole deep dive. And honestly, like those were some of my favorite projects ever, and I think some of my best writing ever. I was very, very inspired. I continue to be inspired by Studio Ghibli, and I especially loved the idea that I could like highlight these films that not a lot of people have seen, and sort of weave in my personal philosophy, in the mix. But unfortunately, sort of like one by one, they all got not even copyright claimed, but like copyright struck. Like they were hard strikes on the channel, and actually for a while completely put the channel in jeopardy. Like it almost just went kaput, entirely. I don't know. I never agreed about that. Like I always thought that my works were transformative and fair use. But the way that YouTube's system works is that they pretty much always side with the copyright holder. So I didn't really have any say in what happened. I tried to appeal it, but like the copyright holder is the one that accepts or rejects the appeal. So it didn't really, I just have no power. But again, I'm not like saying this to complain. Like all of these things happened, and they're a part of the journey, right? Just like the boy and his heart. And they became particular pain points because they were these visions and these works, and they were such like an intricate part of my soul. And it's like I said earlier, every video I make is like a soul transfer, an essence transfer onto video. So those were really difficult things to get through. And then like one of my most recent video essays on YouTube Camp was taken down almost immediately, again due to copyright. And it was like sort of a crisis of identity, a crisis of faith in the channel, so to speak, in the universe. It was like, so is that it? Like of course I continued making vlogs and stuff, and that's partly why I've like relied so much on vlogs lately and in the past like couple of years. I mean, I do love making the vlogs, don't get me wrong, but like I got kind of like, I guess like gun shy or like afraid of making video essays about media only for them to be taken down by copyright. Okay, just as an aside, if you want to watch the Forgotten Ghibli stuff, it's on the Patreon, but it's cool. I mean, whatever. So anyway, sort of like late last year, like right before I went on my trip to Japan, I was kind of thinking of different video essays to write, and it sort of all finally coalesced and came together and culminated in this idea for a brand new concept that's like very, very much so based around my own personal life philosophy and the way that I see the world and ideas and thoughts that I would like to express and share with people out there. And using all like original content, like videos that I myself took, so there's no issues with copyright or anything like that, but very much so in line with all the video essays I've made. It's just that like, it sort of depends solely on me. And then we went on to think like making videos about media kind of puts a layer in between me and the audience. Like you guys are on the internet, you guys are on YouTube, you know how it is. Like people get ripped to shreds for giving their take on anything and everything. And I think the idea of making something so vulnerable and so personal on some level, on multiple levels, was daunting and was frightening. And I think like it was easier for me to sort of like fall back on the things that I was comfortable making. But I think like at the same time I was not content with just letting it go, and I'm still not. And like I had this idea that like I could work on that essay in the background while I worked on the vlogs, and like I kind of did. I would do brainstorming, I would write a little bit, I would edit a little bit, and it would kind of like shift and transform and change forms. But like I've started to understand, finally, after like 5 years in, I'm finally understanding like who I am as a creative, and I'm starting to understand my own process, and I'm starting to not only understand it, but to work with it, right? To not be so hasty and judgmental about it, which is, I don't know if you guys know or if you've dealt with it, but it's actually an incredibly difficult thing to do because
this AI tool will create a stunning ebook direct from your content, whether it's a Microsoft Word document or a Google.
The way social media works, the way YouTube works, the way like the almighty algorithm works is like you are rewarded for staying on the treadmill, right? You're rewarded for creating a lot of things, and then something eventually, catches on and goes viral or whatever. Of course, there are people who have been successful who would be quick to tell you that no, quality is the most important thing. And you just have to make something good and it'll get really popular. But honestly, I think that's BS. Like, it's true, quality is absolutely important, but you cannot ignore the power of the algorithm and how much it wants you to be on that treadmill and constantly be releasing and producing things. That's why there's a whole industry based around how to make YouTube videos and short form content and TikToks and whatever. Anybody who's in the game knows that it matters, right? And that's this constant struggle, of being a like content creator, for lack of a better word. It's like, especially for someone who cares, right? Who cares deeply about the kinds of things that I make and the kinds of ideas and thoughts that I share and put out there and express to all of you out there in the world, right? And so, it's very easy, and it's a trap I've fallen into so many times, to feel like I'm just failing. I'm just not doing enough. I'm not doing things fast enough. I'm not making things good enough. I'm not like keeping up enough, right? But finally, I'm understanding that like this is the path. This is my path. And this is becoming who I am, right? I it's like something I told my sister-in-law a while ago, but it's like, I told her, you've been building this new version of yourself for so long. You've been working on yourself and building yourself and creating new relationships and connections and ways of interacting with the world. It's time for you to step into that version of yourself, right? And I think like, as much as I was saying that to her and do believe that, I think I on a deep level was trying to say that to myself. And I'm finally realizing that my journey is my own, and I can only make things in the way that I can make them, and that doesn't make me less deserving or less worth whatever comes out of it, right? It doesn't mean that I don't deserve to be supported or loved or helped, or that I'm not worthy of any of the treasures that I may find along the way. If anything, it really means that I should be welcoming and accepting of all of that with open arms. Obviously not in like a conceited, narcissistic, or hedonistic way, but it's like work that you put in, it will eventually be amply rewarded, and you, as the seeker, should be receptive to the rewards, right? And at the same time, the process, the journey is the journey. The process is the process, the journey is the journey. Accept it for what it is and allow it to unfold in the way that it does, right? On some level, foolish as it can sound, we need to accept that things will work out the way they will, regardless of how much we worry or think or judge or how hard we are on ourselves. And I think that's where I'm finally at in my journey, this creative journey, as a person, as like an artist, as a creative. I need to step into this new version of myself, and I need to create this thing that feels like a culmination of everything I've worked for so far. And I think we're entering sort of a new chapter in this channel, in this journey. And I don't mean to say like I'm not going to do vlogs anymore, because that's not true. Like I'm still going to make the same kind of stuff that you've become accustomed to, but at the same time, it's going to be like evolving and changing and growing in new and different ways. And maybe I'll reach a new audience, maybe I won't.
So, you're a YouTuber. You spend days scripting, weeks filming and editing. You finally upload, and then 50.
But the important thing is that, I'm reaching for, my personal treasure, my personal legend is being fulfilled. And again, it's not in like a narcissistic way. It's in the way that we all have something innate inside of us, right? It's like, I challenge you to find somebody in this life that you can say is 100% a direct result of everything they're taught, and that only, right? Watching my niece and nephew grow up, watching everybody I know in my life, they're just aspects of your personality, of your drive, that are just inbuilt, unique to you. And these things inform who you are, who you become, what you do, and how you live your life, right? And I'm finally getting to a point in my journey that I can accept that wholly within me, who I am, right? I can like release the idea of the ego of who I think I am, and just instead embrace truly who I am here, who the universe is growing through this vessel, right? Does that make sense? I feel like through all my recordings, this is the most sense I've made, even though it's probably the longest one. Hopefully that makes sense. And I don't know, I'll take it as a win. I'll take it as a sign of growth that I was able to get through that without, without feeling like I did something wrong. A lot of the time I'll like say something like that and like my older videos, and like I'll feel like it's like, I don't know, it's like not quite there. But this time I felt like I really said what I needed to say. And honestly, it it doesn't really matter how it's received because I said what needed to be said, if that makes sense. So yeah, this year, it's already March, but I don't know. There's something about it. I can feel a change in the wind. I can feel like a momentum building. I can feel the path. I can feel like the way of the world, the soul of the world, Like I'm not quite, like I'm not a master, I'm not an alchemist, but I feel more in tune and I feel more even. And obviously I still have my down days. I still have my up days. I'm not always perfect, not by any stretch of the imagination, but there's something different this time. And I can feel something coming on, and I hopefully you guys can feel that too. If you're watching this right now, you're like a core Tim friend, you're like a core supporter of the channel, and for that, I cannot thank you enough. I cannot possibly show my gratitude because a visual depiction of the gratitude would overflow the screen. I set out on this journey for not much more of a reason other than I just felt like I had to. And it's been so up and down and so many different things have happened, and I've met the most incredible people, the most